Imagine this: a queen named Ilara Moongrace wearing a gown of shiny silk. The dress is huge and heavy, made of soft velvet and fancy lace, and it flows behind her as she walks slowly and gracefully through the big halls of her palace. Every step she takes is watched. Every word she says is chosen carefully. She always looks perfect. But behind that perfect royal look, there is a secret that no one would see in a painting. Every month, Queen Ilara doesn't just deal with her period in private. For her, it's something the whole palace knows about. It's written down, studied, and even reported to important people. In her world, whether she can have children is very important for the kingdom's future, so even something as personal as her period is treated like important political news. In the royal courts of the 1600s and 1700s, a queen's body wasn't just hers. Her health, fertility, and monthly cycle were watched closely by palace doctors. These doctors would tell kings, nobles, and even leaders from other lands what they found. If her period came on time, it might be a sign that things were normal. If it was late, people started whispering. Was she pregnant? Had she lost a baby? Was she sick? Sometimes whole councils would hear about it through secret letters. The dates of royal weddings, peace deals, or even coronations could change depending on her cycle. Her body was part of the kingdom's business, and she had no control over that. On top of that, she had to manage it while wearing dresses that were like cages. Royal gowns were not just pretty clothes. They were built like giant structures. They had many layers, heavy skirts, stiff hoops, tight corsets, and wide side frames called panniers. They could weigh as much as a small child. Moving in them was hard, and dealing with a period in them was even harder. Women used cloth pads tied with belts or ribbons under all their clothes. To change them, the queen had to undress, sometimes completely, which meant she needed trusted helpers. She had to do this several times a day, even during long ceremonies or parties where it was hard to leave without people noticing. And if the blood stained a chair or cushion, that could cause dangerous gossip, maybe even rumors about a lost pregnancy. So Queen Ilara had to stay calm and careful all the time, even when she was uncomfortable. Even with all this stress, Queen Ilara Moongrace didn't face it alone. She had a group of trusted women called ladies-in-waiting. These women were much more than helpers. They were her closest companions, and they had very important and very private jobs. One of their most secret tasks was helping her during her period. Only noble women could be chosen for this work. Why? Because knowing about the Queen's period was dangerous information. If the wrong people found out, it could cause rumors, political problems, or even weaken her position. So only women from powerful families who could be trusted were allowed to help. Every month, these ladies-in-waiting would quietly change her bed sheets, take away or wash the stained cloth pads, help her change clothes, and make sure she was comfortable. They also kept careful notes about her cycle and shared them with the royal doctor. They knew more about the Queen's health than anyone else in the palace, but they had to stay out of sight and never let the public know what they were doing. They were guardians of the Queen's most private secret. The pads themselves were not simple rags. Many were made from fine cotton, soft linen, or even silk. Some were decorated with embroidery or lace to make them beautiful, but once they were used, they could not just be thrown away. Not only were they expensive to make, but they also carried information about the Queen's health. The used cloths went through a special cleaning process. First, they were soaked in cold water, sometimes mixed with salt, vinegar, wine, or scented herbs to help remove the blood. After that, they were scrubbed with soap made from animal fat and lye. The Queen never did this herself. Special maids or washerwomen did it, but even they were watched closely. In some courts, the royal doctor would even look at the water after washing the cloths. They believed they could tell if the Queen was sick or poisoned just by the blood's color or smell. This whole process could take days, and every step was watched. For the Queen, it wasn't just laundry. It was part of a bigger cycle where her health was studied, judged, and talked about by people in power. And when her period became irregular or stopped, things became even more serious. That's when the royal doctors stepped in with exams that were often uncomfortable and far from private. These internal checkups were not gentle. Without modern medical tools or proper cleanliness, they could be very painful. Some queens even got infections that made them sore for days afterward. But to the royal doctors, The information was too important to skip. In their eyes, nothing mattered more than the Queen's ability to have children. If a queen like Ilara Moongrace wasn't showing signs of pregnancy, the doctors wanted to know the reason right away. In some cases, the cures they gave were worse than the problem. One dangerous treatment was mercury. Back then, people believed it could help clean the body and wake up the womb. In truth, mercury is poison. It damaged the brain, heart, and other organs slowly over time. The shaking hands, mood swings, and tiredness it caused were often blamed on female weakness instead of poisoning. Lead powder was also used, both as makeup for the face and to sprinkle on underclothes to hide smells. But lead, like mercury, is poisonous. It built up inside the body and could stop women from having children, as well as harm their minds. Bloodletting was another common method. Even if a queen was already bleeding from her period, doctors might take more blood from her arm or leg to balance her humors. This left women pale, tired, and weak, making it easier for infections to spread. Princess Lyriel Starborn was one such royal who suffered under these treatments. She was young, loved by her people, and under constant pressure to produce an heir. She endured years of mercury, lead, and bloodletting. Historians believe these harmful cures may have played a part in her early death. Still, even with the pain, tiredness, or fear of bleeding through expensive gowns, royal women had to look perfect in public. There were no days off. Balls, ceremonies, and portrait sessions went on as planned. Corsets were tightened, gowns were arranged, and smiles were painted on their faces. Behind the scenes, ladies-in-waiting quietly stepped in. They helped with fast changes, small adjustments, or passed secret signals to show that the Queen was in pain. But in front of the court, no one could guess the truth. Many royal women spoke about how hard this silence was. In letters, they said they felt trapped, not just by the rules of the palace, but by the need to pretend nothing was wrong. Duchess Serenia Duskvale once wrote about how tiring it was to be treated like a vessel, examined without her consent, and forced to keep smiling through it all. History often remembers the jewels, the palaces, and the fancy gowns, but their real daily lives were much harder. The truth behind the crowns and jewels was very different from the paintings. Every queen lived under a system that judged her value by whether she could have children. For Ilara Moongrace, every month cycle was more than just a personal matter. It was political. It was tracked, discussed, and sometimes even used against her. She couldn't talk about it openly. She couldn't take a break from her duties, and she certainly couldn't control how others saw it. But still she carried on. So, the next time you see a painting of a queen in a sparkling gown, standing tall with gold and jewels, remember this. Underneath all that lace and silk was a woman with quiet but incredible strength. She didn't just wear the weight of a crown. She carried the heavy burden of living in a world where even her own body was treated as a matter of state.